Hello, everyone. This is Radhika. Welcome to Grooving and Giving in Retirement, where we talk about our best life in retirement or early retirement, giving back to our communities, local and global, and the glue that holds it all together, financial freedom. I left my 23-year-long career in 2021. I retired early, and I will say grass is greener on this side. I get asked that question a lot. To focus on my passion project, A Childhood for Children, a volunteer-based not-for-profit that I started back in 2012. We are going to be 13 years this year. The not-for-profit fulfills the basic needs of children, where we provide essential items to the children. But it isn't about just giving items, it is also sharing love, empowering, educating, and encouraging the children. Anyway, today's video, I want to talk about financial freedom. One of the best things that you can have and do for yourself is to be free financially. And what that means is if you want to work, you can work. But if you want to do something else, you can do that as well. Financial freedom essentially means to have enough money where you don't actually have to be tied down to a traditional job where you're working, so many hours a week. Now, one of the things I say that you absolutely need as a key ingredient to be able to be financially free or have financial freedom is you got to know your numbers. If you watched any of my other videos, you've heard me say you got to know your numbers. So a lot of people ask me, well, what does that mean exactly? I'm going to kind of boil it down very quickly as to what numbers are we talking about? Off the bat, track your income. Now, for people who are working, that's pretty easy. You get a pay stub. Doesn't matter what country, you're getting some sort of reporting from your employer in terms of what your income looks like, what your income taxes payments look like, what your medical contributions look like, what your retirement contributions look like. And that might be slightly different type of schemes in different countries, but ultimately you are contributing something to the social system, to your retirement systems. So track those, know your numbers. Now, around the world, your employer will offer you certain benefits. If you're not participating in those benefits, look at it. See if those benefits are useful. Most of the time, they're retirement benefits, health savings account benefits, things of that nature, healthcare. So look at what you ought to be participating in and don't leave money on the table. This is a global tip. Don't leave money on the table. If your employer is giving you some sort of benefits, take advantage of those benefits. So track your income numbers. Now, if you have income from other things like rental income or investment income, track those numbers as well. Know what your numbers look like. So that's the easier side of the house, tracking your income. Most people like doing that. Next, track your expenses. That means credit card expenses, cash expenses. Track your bank expenses. And that includes everything like Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, whatever app you're using. Track your expenses. Make sure you know where the money is going. A lot of people struggle with this because they get overwhelmed. So if you are that kind of person, start small. Start with taking one credit card into account. Also, consider signing up for some sort of a aggregating type app, like eMoney or Personal Capital or whatever it might be in your neck of the woods. Try to get one of those aggregating apps. If you don't trust aggregating apps, then you will go back to using one credit card, your credit card statements. So maybe consider using one credit card, and that way you only have to go to one place. Now, in the US, that's a tough thing to ask people to do because we get points for credit card usage, and you might be trying to use your credit card to get different type of points. So I understand that, but try to aggregate your expenses in one place so you don't have to go to like a bunch of different places. Now, like I said, that's my tip. Use an aggregating app. Your bank account will have an app, but sometimes what the bank account won't do is, let's say you made a credit card payment, it won't go into the nitty gritty of what the credit card payment was. So if you had 10 charges, it's not going to break it out. It is just going to, in aggregate, say you made a credit card payment. So you may not be able to track the underlying expense, like whether it was for food or a restaurant or that kind of stuff. Now, it is one thing to track all your numbers. It's another thing to review it and to make changes based on what you're reviewing. We tend to change our behaviors when we track information. So if you tracked your numbers and you saw your restaurant number, your restaurant numbers were out of control, you are more likely to make modifications based on those numbers. So, next thing is investments. Now, people tell me income is easy, expenses are really hard, and then investments are the hardest things because they just get overwhelmed by it. I can understand that. The other thing people ask me or always want my advice on is whether to use an advisor or not to use an advisor. That's a personal choice. I've done both. Your advisor comes with a cost, of course. Generally speaking, unless you have a certain level of portfolio, it's about 1% of the value of your portfolio. And those fees are generally deducted every quarter from your portfolio. But again, if you are the person who's very busy or who doesn't have the experience, who doesn't have the desire, who doesn't have the time, consider using an advisor. And express your goals to the advisor, okay? You don't have to just do everything the advisor tells you to do. You can question. You can ask your advisor to do certain things that you want. You can have your goals met. Okay, let me get back to the investments. Some people have asked me, how do I track my investments? Now, one thing I want to say is I'm not a financial advisor. My background is that I am a CPA. Most of my career has been in international tax, so I am kind of at that crossroads of numbers and law. And I think knowing both sides of the equation has been extremely helpful to me. So I'm coming from that side. Most of my time has been the corporate side, so I don't know much about the individual stuff. I have to research it just like you guys do. Not a big deal. Now, how do I track my investments is what the question I've gotten. Well, I have a watch list in Yahoo Finance. One of my advisors I had quite some time ago gave me this tip. He said Yahoo Finance is one of the most underrated websites. And so I've been using Yahoo Finance for quite some time. I have a watch list in Yahoo Finance of all my investments that I want to track. And then I have an Excel workbook that I've created with formulas. And so it's a plug and play workbook. And what that means is I download my watch list from Yahoo Finance. I copy paste it into my workbook. And then I have VLOOKUP formulas that bring in the value into my workbook. And then I can look at what the value of every investment and every account is across the board. And I can also look at the gains and losses. So I will track the gains and losses on a regular basis. Not every day, but quite frequently. And of course, if I'm traveling and doing other things, I don't necessarily track all of this because I'm too busy traveling somewhere. So that is the way I track it. You don't have to do this. You can go to your investment account. Let's say you have one account. You can go to the account and you can actually go and look at your gains and loss statement right there. And then sometimes you may have to wait till the end of the day, of course, to get all your prices. The other question I get is, what are your allocations? Now, as I mentioned, I left my job, so I don't have a regular paycheck coming in. So my portfolio is now, and I am a little bit older, so my portfolio is tending to be a different allocation than it was 5 years ago. So I am 70% stocks and 30% bonds. That's a question I got, so I'm going to put that out there. The other question I have received is, how much do you have in cash? Now, this channel is grooving and giving in retirement. So the grooving part is doing all the things you want to do. For me, it is travel, It is learning new skills. So travel costs money. And so I've got to make sure that I've got my travel funded. But I will also say that I'm a little bit more conservative. And so I generally tend to have about a year to 2 years worth of expenses covered. And so also helps me sleep better at night. And it helps me make my decisions about where I want to travel. That's a personal choice, whether you want to have 6 months worth of cash on hand, you want to have 8 months, 10 months. It's a personal choice. For me, it's a little bit longer because A, I don't work steadily, and B, because I do travel a fair bit. So those are the things that I want, that I think that's how I would answer that question. Now, I know that we're talking about you tracking your income, tracking your expenses, tracking your investments. And if there's anything else that you feel you want to track, go ahead and track it. But here's the thing, the more you track, the less you're going to look at it. I would say if you're just starting out, track some of the bigger things. And then expand what you're tracking. So start small. Don't overwhelm yourself. I've been doing this a long time, and I, of course, have been tracking a lot of stuff, but my background, again, is in finance. Don't put yourself in a situation where you get overwhelmed. Track 5 things. Start with 5 small things, and you can add to it. But the more important thing is not just tracking, but reviewing and taking that information and making decisions based on the numbers that you are seeing. That's my tip. It's not just about tracking. It's about how do you use the data to make informed decisions. It is about the decision making. The objective is making a decision, changing course, thinking about what you should do so you can increase your savings rate. You can have your expenses can be less in a particular category. You don't have to reduce your expenses across the board. Nobody's asking you to do that. So those are my comments for tracking your numbers. But the person who knows the numbers has the power to make changes. So what I am asking you to do is get that power in your hand. In the palm of your hands, get that power. Know your numbers. This has been Grooving and Giving in Retirement, where we talk about our best life, living our best life in retirement, giving back to our communities, and the glue that holds it all together, financial freedom. I am Radhika, and thank you for spending your time with me today. Adios.